Welcome to the 2015 Vero Beach City Council Candidate Forum. My name is Paul Tanner, Chairman of the Indian River Tea Party, and I'll be your host and moderator for the evening. So, let's review tonight's format. Let's get right to it. We have a timekeeper who I would say is generally a nice guy. However, when he has those paddles in his hand, he turns into a different creature. So, there he is. He will have a task of keeping you on task. So when you're asked a question, he will give you the yellow paddle for your 30-second warning, and then when he raises the red paddle, that is time for you to stop speaking. So please adhere to those guidelines, all right? So thank you for being willing to do that. All right, now we'll start at the end of the table. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes in order to put your best foot forward and introduce yourself to the listening audience and those present. So get ready for a nice 2-minute introduction. We will then go to 5 questions that were formulated by the board of the Indian River Tea Party. Tell you about us a little bit later. Note that these questions correspond to our core values. So we are hosting this event, and therefore our questions correspond to the fact that we believe in constitutionally limited government. We try to keep the government somewhat in check and to do government business, and whenever that's possible. We also believe in fiscal responsibility. Obviously, the taxpayer dollars that are collected, that's a great burden or a great responsibility and privilege, not burden, to make sure that they're spent well, so we believe in fiscal responsibility. We also believe, finally, in free market solutions. Whenever it's possible, we like for the free markets to take care of solutions as opposed to the government. The government should do what the government does, and if there's an available free market solution, then we believe in that. So there you have it. So those questions there will be 5 of those questions. After our questions, each of you will be able to pose 1 question to another candidate. Now, I want to say a word here. It's not a debate. So you can formulate your question, think of your question, but when the person answers the question, let's not have a back and forth. Let's simply answer the question at hand to the best of your ability. And finally, we will accept questions from the audience. Now here you go, audience. You ready to participate? If you have a question, I see some heads nodding. Thank you. That's good. Twice I've said you're a good audience. I like to butter you guys up. So twice. If you have a question, just make sure you slip your hand up. We will make sure one of our guys gets you a card, an index card, and also a pen. Write your question down. When you're done, raise your hand. We'll also collect it. We do the heavy lifting. You don't have to do very much here. When you write out your question, make sure you note who that candidate is that you want it addressed to. We can't read minds. Or if it's addressed to all the candidates, that's perfectly fine. So we will have questions from the audience. Some basic rules of decorum here. Candidates, please adhere to the time requirements. We noted that. Secondly, please answer the question that's asked. If I feel that you haven't answered the question, or not that you would dodge the question, we'd never do that, but if you haven't answered a question, I may come back to you and ask for maybe an expansion on your question or a clarification on your question. Thirdly, make sure that you pass the microphone. We have a microphone here. We will start with Harry when we do start. Make sure you pass the microphone down. Don't take the opportunity to use the microphone cord to knock over your candidate's name sign. That wouldn't be very nice, so just make sure you're wary of that. And pass that down each time we ask a question. When we do ask a question, make sure you state your name, especially for the benefit of those listening in. That is something that sometimes we forget, so state your name each time you answer a question. I'll try to remind you of that. Okay, so there's a few rules for you guys. Now, rules for the audience. Yes, we do have rules for you too. Okay, civility and decorum. That's the order of tonight. We want to do things decently in order, and also if you do express your frustration or your energy and positive energy, do it with your checkbook. Okay, that's one way, right? And also do it at the ballot box. Okay, please make sure. Please let's not have boos or catcalling or applause, that type of thing. So let's keep this under control, right? I know you guys look like you're ready to jump out of your seats. So, all right. You can take part in many ways. We're going to talk about that a little later, but for right now, let's get right into the questions. We're going to start with an introduction, starting with Mr. Harry Howell at the end, and then we'll go down. You each have 2 minutes beginning now to introduce yourselves.
Thank you very much. Hi there. Thanks for coming. My name is Harry Howell. I'm a 26-year resident in Indian River County. I'm originally from South Carolina, but I've been in business here in insurance for approximately 17 years, and didn't make it my life goal to run for city council, but I thought it would be a great time for me to do it. The best time is now, and seeing that we need folks on city council that represent the will of the people, had to put my best foot forward and give it my best shot. So I hope that all of you can come to that same conclusion when we're finished here today, and I appreciate your support.
Laura Moss. I'm the newcomer here. I'm the only one at the table who has not run this race previously, so don't be too tough on me. Just so you know who I am, for those of you who don't, last year I ran for a hospital district, which was countywide, and thank you to all of those who voted for me. I really appreciated it, and as it turned out, in the precincts in Vero Beach, I did receive a majority of the vote, although I didn't win that race. Also, currently, I am on the Utilities Commission. I was elected member at large by City Council. That was last March, and that's been terrific. I mean, it's been quite a challenge, but you really get to see, the inner workings of the city. It really provides a unique perspective. Prior to that, I had a career in business. I was director of sales promotion for Sterling Optical, which is a national retail firm, coast to coast, on the New York Stock Exchange. And that, I think, was also a great experience in terms of managing a large budget and a staff. And I think that will help to make me a strong member of the City Council, should I be elected, having this range of experiences. And in terms of family, I do have a family history here in this community of volunteering and being of service to the community. My mother was a member of the IRMC auxiliary, for more than 20 years. She was a volunteer, and my father held elected office as president and as treasurer of the Vero Beach Highlands Property Owners Association. Before the man with the paddle gets impatient to leave.
Good evening, I'm Dick Winger. I'm running for my third term on City Council, currently serving as mayor. I have three things. My prime cause is saving the lagoon, and I'm doing everything possible that I can think of that our government can do. Of course, it's bigger than just one government. All the governments along the lagoon have to share in it. My second one is keeping Vero. My family came here in 1971. We inherited the house. My lovely wife, Bobby, who endures these campaigns, and is that. We came here and we inherited the family house, and it's become our home. Both of us moved across the country. Her family was military. I was big business. My family was big business. My longest time in business was one company was Unilever for 31 years. I've made my career actually reorganizing, and the other thing that I specialize is in management technique and so on, believing that everything that is done has to be done through other people. I think to remember about City Council is that we are legislatures. We are really, in the long run, not managers. We don't run the city. The city staff does that. But we do set policy, and hopefully we set wise policy. So with that, I'll pass it to you, Mr. Hetty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The moderator said to be on best behavior. Any of you that know me know that I'm never on good behavior. I have no filters. Kind of like Donald Trump. I'm going to tell you what I believe to be true. If I'm wrong, please explain to me where I'm wrong. And I can be persuaded. He also said to vote, and you can also vote with your checkbook. Any of you know me, I don't accept donations, but I am accepting donations this year. Make the checks payable to the Veterans Council, and in memo, put transportation. It's really pretty amazing to me that we come up with money all the time for all kinds of things, and then we want to cut things like Veterans Transportation. I work, by the way, for the Veterans Council in the Department of Veterans Affairs, transporting veterans to West Palm Beach to the hospital. Our mayor has told you that he runs a campaign of keeping Vero, and I have to tell you that I would tell you he's done a very good job at that. One of the audience is kind of looking at me and saying, "What are you talking about, Mr. Hetty?" Well, he has. He's kept Vero. The taxes are up. The electric rates are up. The fraud and deception is right where it should be. He's kept Vero just exactly as it was. You know, it's interesting, the council members will tell you what a good job they did, and they reduced the employees. But what they don't bother to tell you is, yeah, they reduced the employees and they increased contractors. The bottom line is, they did reduce the employees that live and work in this community. They ousted them, sent them packing. But has it saved you any money? No, because the costs are up. So if you want to keep Vero, I suggest that you vote for the two incumbents. It'll keep your taxes up, it'll keep your electric rates up, it'll keep you happy.
Hi, I'm Amelia Graves. I'm seeking re-election for my second term on the City Council of the City of Vero Beach. I initially entered this race in 2013 because I've been watching City Council kind of conduct itself. I'm losing sight of why we are a community. It was pretty divisive. We had some members who didn't seem to have much care or respect for the public. And I have really appreciated the ability over the past 2 years to see the tremendous amount of work and detail it takes to keep a city of this quality working and running as it does. It's not an easy task. This is not an easy job. And I keep asking myself why I'm willing to do it again. And the reality is, I just feel very lucky to be entrusted to uphold the legacy that we were handed down by our founders. And I really hope that I can prove myself again for another 2 years to our residents. So, pass it.
All right, we're going to go ahead and pass it back to Mr. Howell. Thank you, candidates, for your answers and introductions. I think we got to know a little bit about you. Now on to the questions that were formulated by the board of the Indian River Tea Party. There's a clarification ask.
You never gave a time limit for the answers.
Okay, we'll get to that. Okay. So here's what we'll do. We will have the first question to begin with Mr. Howell and work your way down. The first question, you will have 2 minutes to respond to this question, and let me tell you, it's a doozy. That's why we're giving you 2 minutes instead of 1.5, so be prepared. So after the first question and after all the answers, we'll then proceed to Mrs. Moss, and then we'll ask the question, and then we'll proceed to Mr. Winger. So each person has a fair opportunity in order to answer the question, and we have 5 questions, so it will work out well. Again, the first question will be a 2-minute question. It's a 3-part question, okay? And the remaining 4 will be 1.5 minutes, Mr. Timekeeper. Okay. Now, understand that we are going to give you a short paragraph on how the Indian River Tea Party and many of its members may see this issue. You may disagree, you may agree, but I'm going to give you a brief intro, and then I'm going to ask you a 3-part question. First, on 2 separate occasions, city residents voted overwhelmingly to sell the electric utility. Both city and county residents continue to express frustration at the lack of progress. However, it appears that the council has redirected its efforts away from the pursuit of a sale and instead is seriously considering a new contract with OUC. This contract does contain a modest reduction in rates, yet it still keeps the city in the utility business and obligates the city to long-term liabilities. Additionally, FPL has yet to determine its transmission capacity, let alone the cost involved to the city. Now that's a mouthful. Now here are the 3 questions. First, would you agree that this course of action is in opposition to the will of the voters? Yes or no? Second, would you agree that this course of action is, in effect, perpetuating and compounding the ill-advised decisions of past city councils? Yes or no? And third, will you commit to tabling the OUC contract considerations and proactively pursue new options to sell, including seeking support of the Florida legislature to accomplish this? Yes or no? Now, if you need help in remembering the question, you can certainly ask me for help. You can explain your answer, but remember you have 2 minutes beginning when you begin to answer the question. We'll start on this end with Mr. Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. 2 minutes, that's it. Should have more like 4, maybe 5. The first question was about the voters and the referendums. There were 2. The voters expressed their will. The will was that we sell the electric utility. I know that at some point in time, bids were put out there, FPL stepped up to the plate, and what happened after that has been a complete joke to us, unfortunately. We had two people who ran on those platforms. They both said that we're going to sell the utility. In fact, there's one in the audience today who I helped get elected, I think, put his sign in my yard, and I was at his fundraisers and things like this, and I was very saddened to learn that the flip-flop happened so quickly. The deal was dead 6 months later. So I do not believe that the will of the people has been upheld. Furthermore, the OUC contract, has it compounded the difficulties, I believe you asked? Is that right, Mr. Tan?
Has it compounded the ill-advised decisions of past city councils?
Yes, I believe it has. Let's look at 3 separate contracts in the past where they've gotten us. They've gotten us deeper and deeper in trouble. And I've said this before, these types of contracts are very complicated because it gives the upper hand to the person who crafted the contract. In this case, it's OUC or FMPA. All you have to do is take a look at Obamacare to understand that. Another contract's not the answer. The answer is to do what we set out to do to begin with. That's to sell the utility to FP&L. And in my opinion, the folks that are in charge of this have turned their heads the other way. The final question was, am I willing to table the OUC contract? I'm willing to rip it up and burn it in a trash can. Yeah, I'd like to see it gone. I hope it's not signed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Laura Moss. On the first question, yes, I would agree that the will of the voters has not come to fruition. On the second question, yes, I would agree that there certainly appears to be a history of compounding errors. And on the third question, yes, I would agree. And I've spent many hours studying the contract, and it's very problematic. In fact, we had a 4-hour meeting yesterday, the Utilities Commission, specifically for the contract to iron out, or attempt to iron out, but I don't see it happening. It's just there are too many problems with it. I would seek legal or legislative help to really to get out of both things if it's possible, the FMPA and the OUC. I don't think Indian River Shores or the county is the bad guy here. If there is a bad guy, it's FMPA or OUC. It's not our neighbors. We should not be against our neighbors, and I'm very sorry that that's the situation. Actually, in preparation for tonight, last night, I watched this meeting in 2012 when there were 4 questions, and 3 out of 4 were about the utility. That's 3 years ago, and I don't think we want that again. We don't want it 3 years from now. You have 3 of the questions be about the utilities. The questions were, actually the very first question was, I'm running out of time. Well, we'll save it for later.
Well, I sit in a different position than others, and then I most recently dealt with Sam Forrest and Florida Power and Light on August 9th, and quite frankly, I've met with him several times, and we have Florida Power and Light and the city have broken our heart trying to get out of the FMPA contract. I guess I've been to 800 homes around the city. I've only found 8 people that have any idea that there's a solution to FMPA, certainly Florida Power and Light, and we do not. I think you can ask them. So we haven't achieved the will of the people, but not because I haven't broken my heart doing it. That's just the way it is. In February of 2014, it became apparent that we were going to have trouble closing the contract. And by the way, I've supported keeping the contract out there. I would suspect that after the contract gets to its termination date, December 31st, 2016, we'll continue to try. But be that as it may, the City Council made a policy decision in February 2014 to follow a simultaneous track, try to get rates down. In those 2 years, we've gotten them down 6.7%. They're going to go down more. We will be right at the midpoint of public utility, municipal utilities, if this contract is signed. And it's not a new contract. It's just a revision granting us 3 favorable terms. To turn down $126 million, to turn down shortening in 6 years, and to turn down closing Big Blue, I think would be foolish. And let's see, the last question was legislation. I think this is a good point because I think legislative solution is probably the only one. I have little faith in the Congress of the United States or the legislature of this state, which has not been able to come up with either a budget or redistricting. I think it's a good hope. There's no legal recourse. It's been to the Supreme Court, the FMPA contracts, but legislation is probably the only way. Did I answer your question?
Only one clarification. Do you believe it perpetuates and compounds the ill-advised decisions of past city councils?
No, I think that we are responsible to get the rates as low as we can while we pursue trying to sell the utility. The odds of selling the utility with FMPA in the way are very, very slim, and I think most people in the city know that. And I think it's overreach to claim that there could be something done. Florida Power and Light, I can tell you, Sam Forrest, and the rest of their senior staff knows of no way of doing it. So if someone here does, we'd love to hear it, and so would Florida Power and Light. Are you happy?
I'll see if I can make them unhappy. The voters voted twice to sell, not exactly. The voters voted to lease the property, but regardless, I think it's clear that the voters want us to sell, want the city to sell the utility. I think that's clear, and yes, I would agree that that's what the voters want. The second question involved ill-advised past decisions. I see a former council member out there, and I served in 2009 with that particular council member, and I would argue that our decision to invite FP&L in was not ill-advised, but they did what they could do to legally get rid of Mr. Wilson, and then they got rid of me, and it's been downhill ever since. I think that any vote to approve or to backdate retroactively approve the old OUC contract, I think is you're a co-conspirator and a fraud to do that. And no, new ways of settling. Yeah, new ways of settling. Here's what OUC, you can go back to the 2008 meeting. Here's what OUC said they were going to do. They were going to give us FP&L rates. They were going to knock the rates down by 20%. And here's a way of settling. Give OUC 72 hours to do what they said they were going to do. And if they don't do that, hand the keys to FP&L and be done with it. And you know, I hear all the time, well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy if elected officials don't want it to be that easy. It's not that easy if elected officials want to continue to give a ton of money, millions of dollars, to consultants and lawyers to fight this. OUC needs to do what they said they were going to do, which is FP&L rates, or we need to give the keys to FPL.
Okay, one clarification. You noted on question one that the will of the people you believed was to sell. Do you believe the current course of action is in opposition to the will of the voters?
Oh, absolutely in opposition to the will of the voters.
I do believe that the...
This is Amelia Graves.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I have to remind. Okay, Amelia Graves. I do believe the will of the people is to sell the FPL. I do believe the will of the council is to sell the FPL. I think the problem with the sale to FPL is the council, when they constructed this agreement, decided not to deal with the biggest problem from the get-go, which would be who would take our power entitlements with the FMPA. Had they started with that, we wouldn't be $2 million in the hole with a sale that can't conclude as we're just sitting here right now today. So, has the will of the people been upheld? No, but that's because there's a faulty contract to begin with. Now, do I believe that we're compounding past council mistakes? All I've heard is this 2008 contract is too long and too much money. So we're trying to shorten it and make it less. So how can we be compounding something if we're trying to improve a situation? We can stay in this contract and keep paying more and pay through 2029, or we can pay less and cut it short and get out on the market in 2023. And finally, I would not table the OUC contract. I would keep pursuing it, but if at a legislative level, there's a way to get us out of these FMPA contracts and we could conclude the sale to FPL, then by all means, let's do it. We could pay the penalty to OUC of the $50 million, exit out of that contract, have FPL take over the power plant, take over our electrical services, and be done.
One clarification.
Okay.
You noted that the will of the people had not been done, but the question was, would you agree that the course of action, the current course of action, is in opposition to the will of the people?
No, because I don't know how you can be in opposition to the will of the people when you couldn't fulfill it with what the council had created.
Okay, thank you for answering.